Space, with its extreme conditions, zero gravity, intense radiation, and freezing temperatures, has long been considered an inhospitable environment for life.
However, recent scientific advancements have revealed something extraordinary. Plants can survive in space.
These resilient organisms are not only able to endure the harsh conditions of space, but they also provide valuable insights into the potential for future space missions and the possibility of growing food on other planets. In this video, we'll explore the plants that can survive in space and how scientists have managed to grow these remarkable species beyond Earth's atmosphere. Get ready to be amazed as we dive into the world of spaceborne flora and discover how these plants have adapted to the final frontier. 1. Arabidopsis thaliana, the space explorer plant. What makes it special? Arabidopsis thaliana, a small flowering plant related to mustard, is one of the most studied plants in space research. This plant was one of the first to be grown in space aboard the International Space Station, ISS, in 2002. How it survives in space. Arabidopsis is highly resilient to changes in its environment, making it an ideal plant for space experiments. In space, it can grow and complete its life cycle despite the lack of gravity. Fascinating fact. Scientists have been able to observe how Arabidopsis adapts to the lack of gravity and extreme conditions in space, providing insights into plant biology and how plants might survive on other planets like Mars. 2. Space soybeans. Growing the future of food. What makes them special? Soybeans are one of the first plants to be grown in space, with the goal of providing a sustainable food source for long-duration space missions. How they survive in space. Soybeans have been successfully grown in microgravity on the ISS, showing that they can adapt to space conditions and even germinate in space. This breakthrough is essential for future human space exploration, as soybeans are a high-protein plant that could feed astronauts on long missions. Fascinating fact. Soybeans grown in space have shown to have altered metabolic responses due to the lack of gravity, which provides valuable data on how space conditions affect plant growth and nutrition. 3. The space cress, Lepidium sativum. Tiny but resilient. What makes it special? The common cress, or space cress, is another plant that has survived in space conditions. It's an ideal model for studying plant growth because of its fast growth rate and small size. How it survives in space. Scientists have grown space cress on the ISS under different environmental conditions, such as varying light cycles and microgravity. This plant is resilient enough to continue its life cycle in the challenging conditions of space. Fascinating fact. Space cress is a key player in experiments designed to understand how plants perceive gravity and light in space, helping us develop better space farming techniques. 4. Zinnias. The colorful space gardeners. What makes it special? Zinnias are one of the first flowering plants successfully grown in space in the veggie experiment aboard the ISS. These vibrant, colorful flowers not only brightened the ISS, but also played a crucial role in testing the feasibility of growing plants for food and oxygen production. How they survive in space. Zinnias were cultivated in a special growth chamber on the ISS where they were exposed to light and nutrient conditions that mimicked Earth's environment. Despite facing some challenges like a lack of proper airflow, zinnias managed to grow successfully. Fascinating fact. The success of zinnias in space is a major step forward in space farming, as they helped establish the viability of growing plants for astronauts' mental and physical well-being. 5. Algae. The tiny space survivors. What makes it special? Algae are among the simplest forms of plant life, but their ability to survive in space makes them a crucial component of future space exploration. How it survives in space. Algae has been grown in space to study its potential as a resource for oxygen production and water purification in closed-loop space systems. Algae's ability to photosynthesize and produce oxygen could be pivotal for long-term human space exploration. Fascinating fact. Algae's potential to act as a self-sustaining oxygen producer in space habitats could revolutionize how we think about growing food and recycling air in space stations or Mars bases. 6. Wheat. A key player in space agriculture. What makes it special? Wheat is one of the most important staple crops on Earth, and growing it in space could be a key breakthrough in space agriculture. How it survives in space. Wheat has been successfully grown on the ISS, and researchers are exploring how this crop can be grown in space to help support astronauts with a source of carbohydrates. The ability to grow wheat in space could make it possible to establish sustainable farming systems on Mars. Fascinating fact. Wheat grown in space can produce grains similar to Earth-grown wheat, which is a promising sign that larger-scale food production might be feasible in space environments. 7. Tomatoes. From space to plate. What makes it special? Tomatoes are a beloved and essential crop on Earth, and growing them in space could one day provide astronauts with fresh produce during extended missions. How they survive in space. Tomatoes have been grown in space under controlled conditions, with astronauts experimenting with different variables such as light, temperature, and water. These experiments have shown that tomatoes can grow in space and produce fruit, marking another milestone in space farming. Fascinating fact. Space-grown tomatoes help scientists better understand plant growth in microgravity and could lead to breakthroughs in growing food on long-duration missions to the Moon or Mars. 8. Rice. The space staple crop. What makes it special? Rice is a staple food for billions of people on Earth, and its ability to grow in space could revolutionize food production for space missions. How it survives in space. Rice was grown aboard the ISS as part of NASA's space farming experiments, showing that it can adapt to space conditions, particularly with the help of controlled environments that simulate Earth-like conditions. Fascinating fact. Rice grown in space is being studied to understand how gravity and environmental conditions affect plant growth, potentially opening doors for cultivating crops on other planets. 9. Space lettuce, the fresh salad of space farming. What makes it special? Lettuce is another plant that has been successfully grown in space. It's one of the first edible crops to be grown and harvested in space for astronaut consumption. How it survives in space. Lettuce has been grown aboard the ISS in a growth chamber called veggie, which uses LED lights and a hydroponic system to provide nutrients and water. The lettuce was harvested, and astronauts enjoyed fresh salads in space. Fascinating fact. Growing fresh, nutritious food in space is crucial for long-term missions to other planets, and space lettuce is one of the key crops tested for this purpose. 10. Peas, the protein providers of space farming. What makes it special? Peas are another crop that has been tested in space as part of agricultural experiments. How it survives in space. Peas can be grown in controlled conditions that simulate Earth-like environments, providing a source of protein and other nutrients for astronauts. Fascinating fact. Peas are part of the legume family, which has nitrogen-fixing bacteria that help replenish the soil with essential nutrients. This characteristic makes them ideal candidates for space farming, as they can improve soil health in closed-loop environments. Why plants in space matter? The ability to grow plants in space isn't just a scientific curiosity. It's a necessity for the future of long-duration space missions. Plants provide oxygen, food, and psychological benefits to astronauts, and they are essential for creating sustainable life support systems on spacecraft or space stations. By understanding how plants like Arabidopsis, soybeans, and zinnias survive in space, scientists are unlocking the potential for growing food on planets like Mars, which could one day allow humans to colonize other worlds. Conclusion. The discovery that plants can survive in space has opened up a world of possibilities for space exploration. From growing food to producing oxygen, plants are an essential part of making long-term space missions viable. With each successful experiment, we're getting closer to the day when astronauts can grow their own food on Mars, making the final frontier a little more hospitable. Which plant survival story amazed you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more exciting content about the future of space exploration and the fascinating world of space farming.